Hey, everybody, this is Eric Mueller, the host of The Eric Mueller Show. You're tuned into the podcast that explores what makes any successful person's inner clock tick by unlocking the most impactful tools within their success portfolio. I'm joined today by Kim Daly, one of America's top franchise consultants, who has invested more than 20 years educating, motivating, and inspiring people to control their time and financial future by investing in the right franchise. Let's head on over to the interview. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eric. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm excited too. This is a topic that certainly interests me. Hopefully, listeners out there, hopefully you're excited to hear this as well. And Kim, before we dive deep into this entrepreneurial story of yours and really that expertise you have on franchises, we want to know what makes up your success portfolio. So if you're new to this show, a really quick way to understand this is to think of an investment portfolio. Think of maybe your 401k at work, or maybe you have a stock trading account. This is the compilation of those financial investments that lays that foundation for your financial goals. Well, here on the Eric Mueller Show, I want to discover how successful people like Kim invest in themselves and build that foundation for their success. So Kim, start us off. What are some skills, traits, habits, or mindsets that make up your success portfolio?
I mean, we can do the whole show on that, Eric. This is my sweet spot in life. Look, if you want to be in control of your destiny, number one, you have to be accountable, right? So you have to have goals and dreams. You have to show up for your goals and dreams. You have to be willing to learn, go down the path, whether that's listening to podcasts or reading books or finding a mastermind. You have to be willing to get the knowledge you need to be the person you need to be to then create the outcomes that you want to have, right? So, but I mean, I'm an avid reader. I audible all my books. Like I was at the gym this morning, audibling a book. I spend a lot of time just talking to other people who do what I do, but at a higher level, and maybe not even in my industry, but just people who do similar things that what I envision building in my future. Because if somebody can teach me something and I can be like, oh, okay, like buy down that learning curve, just like when you invest in a franchise, why reinvent the wheel, right? It's been done. Somebody else has already done what you're trying to do, more than likely. So those are some of the things that I do. You got to keep yourself motivated and pumped up. I eat well, I sleep well, I go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week. You know, those types of things are natural to me because it's just the daily discipline of keeping my mind sharp means my body has to feel good. I have to feel hydrated and well nourished so that I can show up and be clear thinking and ready to just show up for my dreams.
Yeah, I think a lot of great points there. I think the reading, audible, consuming books and content in that way is something a lot of guests have shared. That continuous learning aspect really seems to be a common thread with people that are successful in general, whatever industry, whatever field they're in. And I do have a question for you, Kim, on top of that is in regard to that physical health, going to the gym 5-6 times a week. Do you find that is that a challenging thing time-wise? I mean, it sounds like you've gotten it to be, in a habitual sense. But do you ever have those days where you're like, if I want to get these other responsibilities done, I may have to forgo that? Or how do you address that trade-off, so to speak, if that were to occur?
It does not occur, Eric. Because I can't really show up for my best self. So my gym time is scheduled in my calendar, just like showing up for this podcast with you, and I do not let myself off the hook. So I do train in a small group, like a semi-private personal training group session. I do that 2 days a week, and then I do 2 times on my own. But I go, I divide it into 2 sessions. I get up early and I do some of it in the morning, and I go back because I don't like sitting. I sit a lot during the day because I'm on Zooms and I don't like just sitting all day and like doing all the exercise at one point and then sitting. It feels too extreme. So I do a little bit in the morning. I come to work and then I either leave midday or late after the end of the day and I go back. But you know what? Everybody has to do what's best for them in terms of fitness. The most important thing is that you do it. You have goals. Like I was a personal trainer and I'm a nutritional biochemist by degree. So fitness and nutrition are like the core of who Kim Daly is. It guides everything that I do. I would never miss a workout. Like, that's just like, miss a workout? Like, no way. It's not happening. I have to be sick and really sick, because even when I'm sick, I still end up usually going to the gym. I just love going to the gym. It always makes me feel better.
Yeah, so deeply ingrained within you in terms of that habit that you have to make that a part of your daily life. I love the way that you answered that. And you also have like that background in the fitness industry, right? You've consulted with companies, like Denise Austin to name one of them. You've had that experience too. So it's you've built it up. It didn't just start, yesterday where you're like, I'm going to go to the gym every day and it's going to happen and I'm going to have this be, something that's regular. So if you're out there listening and thinking like, I want to do that more, but I haven't yet committed to like making that a non-negotiable, something where I'm not going to, I'm not going to let myself off the hook, to quote Kim there. Would you have any advice for that person, Kim, kind of coming from that fitness, and health background, how to bring that into a habitual way for someone who wants to, get into better physical health? And we're kind of at the, kind of front part of 2024 here. Not too late to give up on a New Year's resolution by any means. What would you offer for that person in regard to advice?
I love it. I mean, this is a really important conversation, because you can't be your best self if you don't feel well. And I also think that everything I learned in the gym really has translated to my incredible success as a business owner. It's really interesting how the top performing people in business that I've met are all gym people. Because, and I think that the discipline that you have of going even when you don't want to go, right? Because sometimes that's when you have your best workout. That's when you make your biggest gain. Sometimes it's just the feeling of empowerment that I didn't want to go. I made myself go. I followed through and I'm done. And those types of qualities that you're pulling out of yourself are the same qualities that grit, getting into the grind, that's necessary to be successful in anything in life. How about this one? Like, all right, I couldn't lift, I can't lift that, but I'm gonna start where I'm starting. I can't bench press 135. I'm a girl. I can't bench press 135 pounds today, but I can start with maybe 75 pounds. And if I do this consistently, I'm gonna build muscle, and then I'm gonna get to 80, and then I'm gonna get to 90. And it's incremental success. It's not like I go to the gym one time and then I have these super buff arms, right? People always compliment me on my muscularity, and I'm like, guys, it's consistency. So the same thing is going to be true in owning a business. You've got to show up consistently. When I look back at my history making year in my business back in 2011, I was only 80% effective at the goal that I set for myself, but 80% effective led me to a history making year. So perfection was never the goal. Consistency was, and it's the same in the gym. So to answer your question, Eric, I think you just have to commit to yourself. This is going to be important to me. I want to be the person who wants to be in the gym. And you just create a routine and you hold yourself accountable. And maybe you don't start at 5 or 6 days like Wacko Kim Daly. Maybe you just start with 1 or 2 days. If you're starting from nothing, 1 or 2 days is going to have a massive impact, right? And then as you get going, you'll find you want to be there more, especially as you start seeing some changes in your body. Then it accelerates your motivation for wanting to be in there more, thinking, okay, if I'm here 2 days a week, I look like this. What would happen if I got here 4 days a week?
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that. It lines up perfectly with the episode 82 with Evan Neerman. Go check that out if you haven't yet. But I just got done editing that one. And you essentially echoed a few points that he made almost to a T, which is so great to hear. That's like the goal of this show, is find those commonalities with these successful people, guys. And so she talked about, holding yourself accountable. That was a big thing that I remember from that episode. In addition to setting those goals, knowing that perfection is likely not attainable. So I recall from that episode, like he was like, if I can achieve 80% of my life goals, that's a massive success, even though, you didn't get to 100. But, so if you start with the gym, you start with a goal in mind, you probably aren't going to achieve that perfection ever. But that's part of, you're probably going to end up being great or excellent. So I think really, really good points there. I'm really glad that you shared that, Kim. Thanks for, leading us down that path of to the next, point that I like to talk about is, what is success? So you mentioned, like a bench press, you could have, a metric in your head as far as what is successful, to an extent, some objective way to measure it. Maybe you want to bench, 350 pounds if you're a guy or something. And so that's like a great, I'm not benching that. I'm never going to bench that. That's not going to be a goal I'm going to set for myself.
Neither.
No, but I think that, there's a way to define success in an objective sense sometimes, but there's a lot of subjectivity to it. And there's a lot of, personality to how someone defines success. So Kim, if I was to ask you what your definition is of the word success right now and how that maybe has changed over time, what would you say to that?
Such a great question. So for me, success equals control over my time. And what that means is I have peace of mind, right? So if ever I find myself like anxious in my thoughts, I've become a really good mind coach to myself because I catch myself thinking about what I'm thinking about if I don't like it, because I know that the power of my thoughts controlling my thoughts is what's going to control my life. So our thoughts are very, very powerful. So if I catch myself feeling anxious about anything, I sort of like play therapist, like, this angel on this shoulder is talking to this devil on this shoulder saying, why are you thinking these thoughts right now? Because I've created a world for myself where I'm independently employed. Like I always say, I'm unemployable. I've been unemployable for years. My dad would say, you've been unemployable since you were 2 years old. But like I created that. I will never work for anybody else. I'm very confident in what I can do and earn money for myself and my family. So I have complete mastery over my time. So if I'm anxious, what am I anxious for? It's just lack of discipline over my thoughts. Um, so success for me equals just having peace of mind. It means having a routine and a schedule that I created for myself. It's not imposed by a job that tells me I have to work these hours or take vacations these certain weeks. I'm very flexible. That's success. And it's, when I meet a lot of people, most of the people that I meet are like, I don't want to work. And when I really dive, like, I want to buy a business and I don't want to work. And I'm like, no, I don't think that it's that you don't want to work. You want mental freedom, meaning you want to add value to the world in some way. You just want to do it with a mentally free mind. Because when you are employed by other people who impose, and people you don't like, or maybe you don't like the decisions they make, or you don't like that you have to have, be in the office a certain number of hours when you could totally do your job remotely. These things wear on us. And so my definition of success is I don't have any of those. And when I do find myself thinking those kind of thoughts, I control that because I'm in control. And if there's something that I'm doing that feels like an obligation that I'm not enjoying anymore, then I got to figure out how do I not do that anymore? And I am totally accountable to myself and in control. And for me, that's success.
Yeah, I really enjoy the aspect of, those anxious thoughts, because that's certainly full transparency. That's something that I have, on a consistent basis. I'm sure a lot of people out there feel that. Anxiety
Everybody.
is, yeah, that's a normal emotion. You got to control it though. And so I've found that, there are times where I'm like, this is not serving me well. This is not helping me, progress towards whatever I'm trying to do. And so I think what Kim just shared is really, to just kind of step back and be self-aware of those thoughts. I've heard that from, I think it was even like a yoga session on YouTube one time. They were like, you're an observer of your thoughts. Like your thoughts are not you, but you're an observer of those thoughts that are happening. So it's like, it kind of gets into like this meta discussion, of like, well, you could go down this whole rabbit hole, but I think simplistically, yeah, analyze, your thoughts by just being aware of them. I think that's helped me. It sounds like that helps you as well, Kim. So I think listeners out there that are anxious, maybe start by just being self-aware of why you're feeling and thinking that way. And, just thinking, hey, this is or is not serving me in the way I want it to. Let's be a little more disciplined as far as, what can we do to help that? And I don't know, Kim, are you a fan of traditional or online therapy? Have you found that you've had clients, or I don't know if you've personally, if you're willing to share that, if you've done that in your own life, kind of just in terms of, I feel like a lot of people have had not necessarily a complete mental regression, but their mental health probably is not as great as it was prior to the pandemic a couple years back.
So that's another excellent question. So I'm a Christian and I take a lot of my strength from like I do watch a lot of online pastor like sermons, but also the types of books that I focus on are all like I'm a personal development junkie. That's really like my whole thing. And so like when people give me like business books on leadership or strategy, I'm not interested in learning that way. I'm interested in learning how my mind works because if my mind is clear, I can be the leader that I want to be without reading a book on leadership. Like I go all the way up to I love the meta conversation, which is what we're having. And like I read books by Dr. Wayne Dyer. I've been to retreats with Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is the guru who talks about become aware of what you're thinking about because your thoughts are things and the more you focus whatever you're thinking about expands. So, and as a business owner, I've used that one simple tool or trick to completely change my business results. And in that breakout year, did over 3.5 times more revenue by just thinking different thoughts. People are like, no, there was more to it. I'm like, there wasn't the first year that I did it. So our thoughts are very, very powerful. And once you become aware of how powerful your thoughts are to change your life, you become way more interested in controlling what you're thinking about. So it all comes back to like, you got to see a result. Now, if your life is in a crappy place and you start becoming aware of how you're thinking, you got to directly attribute what you're thinking about to the result because we're all creators of our own reality. Most of us are just creating by default, right? We're creating and we're not realizing the power that we have. Like I have 2 teenage boys. And since they were little, I've always told them, use your power for good. And what I mean by that is I am very aware that we're all powerful creators. And the words that you speak have power. You can speak life into people or you can speak death. And you can speak life into your team. You can bring energy into your office that's positive, an environment that makes people want to be a part of the esprit de corps and like, rally around the cause. Or you can walk into that office and completely destroy the mood and the morale of everybody. And you don't have to say a word. It's all the energy that you carry. And so it's very, very important. So to me, this is like everything that I study, whether it's a pastor of a church. I'm an online member of Elevation Church, Pastor Stephen Furtick, probably for me, the greatest mentor in my life, teaching me how to actually live the Bible, like understand the Bible to where I can live it. But I also love Dr. Wayne Dyer. I've studied Abraham Hicks, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who wrote one of the best books I've ever read called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. But these books speak to me. They resonate with me because this is where my mindset is at. Some, very tactical people like that. I want to read a book on leadership. I want to read a book on overcoming objections in sales. And I've read those books and they can be helpful to me, but not as helpful for my like the way that I interpret the world.
Yeah, I think a lot of good points there. I think that, hopefully that resonates with people out there listening, just in terms of what can you do to, kind of get more clarity as far as where you're going and like maybe defining success for yourself, figuring out what are those tools that could help you personally. Cause it's, it's a subjective thing. I think I think that's an important distinction that everyone should know when you're looking into personal development or you're looking at, anything that's going to help motivate you is that it's not a one size fits all. And so I think it's certainly there are things that can work better than others, Kim. I'm sure you can attest to that. But getting towards, your niche here, your expertise in the franchise space and being the daily coach, being able to consult people on finding the right franchise. Let's just jump into this and really, discuss just what if we have someone out there listening that wants to get into this space, they may or may not have listened to the previous episode I had with Kenny on shares and how you could fractionally invest in franchises. Maybe they've dabbled in that. Maybe they think, I don't really know if I want to, I want to like traditionally figure this out. So we got Kim on the show here to help us with that, to find out why is franchising, a great vehicle to invest in, and just jump right into what your take is on how someone can, in a simplistic sense, where we can start to find the right franchise to maybe invest in.
Love it. So, first of all, Eric, I'm a firm believer after 23 years of being in this industry that nobody really wakes up and says, "Oh, yeah, I own a franchise." Like, actually says that. What happens is we find ourselves at some fork in the road. Maybe your job, you've lost your job, or maybe you sense instability in the future of your job because of your age in corporate America, or because you're in an industry like pharma or tech or oil and gas, right? That are traditional, they go up and down. And when it's good, you have a job. And when it's bad, you lose your job. And you're just sort of sick of that. Like, am I going to be the one that loses his or her job right now? Or maybe the other really good, candidate that I work with is, an investor. They've already moved their money out of the stock market. They're very active in building an alternative investment portfolio. Maybe they have real estate syndications, or they flip homes, or they have Airbnbs, or they're invested in mobile home parks and ATM. You know all those people, and they're looking for the business cash flowing return, which tends to be higher than a lot of those other things that are more passive, right? So we're always trading off time for money, right? So in those things that are more passive, you expect a lower return. When it's a little more active, you expect a higher return. So in franchising, when people come to me, Eric, and I'm kind of figuring out, like, why are we having this conversation, and what's happening in your life that makes you desire more freedom, control, time, passion? All right. So how does a franchise fit in, or does it? You have to want to be the owner of a business, which means you have to have a heart for serving, right? In business, we make money because we serve people. Our customers want us to solve a problem. So in franchising, you don't have to figure out what problem to solve and how to solve it, because that's what you're buying the franchise for, right? They're going to say, "Hey, this is our customer avatar. This is how we differentiate from all the other Joe Schmoes out there." And you're going to pay a franchise fee and get all of those ready-made tools, which buys down the learning curve and mitigates the startup risk. Okay. So, like, when we look at the failure rate in the entrepreneur space, about 90% of businesses fail before their fifth anniversary. Well, that statistic is not owned in franchising. So, because we're not figuring out anything, it's already been figured out for us. But that doesn't mean you as an owner aren't figuring out anything, because you have to figure out how you're going to grow into the role of being a successful business owner. There's tons to still figure out. But in simplistic terms, that's what we're doing. We're buying down that learning curve. We're partnering ourselves with people, so we're not out there trying to not just run our business, but like see the future potential of our business all at the same time. Entrepreneurship is very, very lonely. But in franchising, we have the very cliched expression that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So I just said a lot there. I will stop and let you kind of like pick up on whatever piece you want to go off there. But to answer your question, people don't come here saying, "Oh, yeah, this has been on my," very, very rarely. They might say, "I always dreamed of owning a business, and I understand that franchising can make it easier." And that's where our conversation begins. But most people hear me on a podcast and go, "Wow, I never thought about a franchise until I heard you talk about it. Would it be something for me?"
Yeah, I think that's a great point to end, that particular answer to that question. And that was a great answer. I think that a lot of things to unpack there, a lot of thoughts I had. One thought that I just had immediately was, although a franchise already has solved some problem in the marketplace, you could still take ownership of that and completely flub it and completely screw up. It's just because the problem's been solved doesn't mean it's like you just set it and forget it. You just get into franchising and it's like the easiest thing in the world and it's just going to be successful because the business exists and the solution exists. So that was a thought that crossed my mind. And another piece that really got me thinking was, and we chatted about this a little bit pre-interview, you probably see things on either Instagram or other aspects of social media, maybe LinkedIn, where you see the net worth required to get into a particular company. And one example that I'll use is Chick-fil-A. Because you can see, if you have, maybe you've seen it on Instagram or something, it looks like, oh, pretty low startup cost in terms of franchises as a whole. What do you need it for a net worth to own, a McDonald's franchise? It's at least astronomically higher than Chick-fil-A. I don't remember a million. I don't remember exactly where it was. But Chick-fil-A, it's like $10,000. That's the cost that they list on there, at least on this one post I remember seeing a while back. And you shared with me that does not tell the full story. Would you share with me, what the problem is with that. Maybe not the problem, but what the backstory is with if someone wants to get into a company like Chick-fil-A where it says, oh, you only need 10K to get involved.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is why I have a business, is to help people really figure out the best investment options for their goals. So, the reason Chick-fil-A has a very low startup cost, Eric, is because they're looking for active restaurant um like operators. They Chick-fil-A corporate owns the building, the restaurant, all the physical assets. So it's not that it costs $10,000 to open a Chick-fil-A. It's that they own all of that and you're coming in as a 50-50 partner. So you're going to be the very full-time restaurant manager and they're going to put up all the sweat equity versus the equity, right? And then together you share 50-50 in this partnership, but you never really own what you've built. So when I work with candidates and they come to me, I say, okay, before we talk about specific brands or ideas even, share with me, where do you see your life in 3 to 5 to 10 years? And we'll talk about their kids' ages and are you going to become a snowbird like Kim Daly? Or do you see yourself eventually traveling and having more free time in your life? So the end goal is what I'm after. So because that back ends me into specific industries, concepts, and ideas. So if you have a goal to build and sell something in 5 to 10 years and you love fitness, that could be a great kind of a business for you, because the reality is the trend may change and you may not want to own it more than 10 years. So you could build that and sell it. Now, in all franchises except for Chick-fil-A and 7-Eleven, you have the option to sell it. So, but if you've built all this equity and you can't exit with some multiple of that, it's such wasted opportunity in my mind. Now, some people be like, I could argue that Chick-fil-A I could make a great living and I could be self-employed. You're 100% correct. If that's your goal, that could be great. But if your goal is to build something of value, to scale it to multiple units and to sell it to small private equity or to sell it to the next owner when you're ready to exit. Look, I have friends that got involved in Planet Fitness at the beginning of that, who once they went, through their equity and then they went to the IPO. I have friends that cashed out for huge multiples of every club they owned. One of my friends owned 10 clubs. He got an 8 multiple, which equated to $80 million buyout. He was
Wow, that's
58
big.
years old. So he built for 20 years, multiple clubs, and then at 58 years old, tapped out for 80 million. Okay. Well, you're never going to do that with Chick-fil-A because they don't give you the opportunity. So not to go down any rabbit holes of making earnings claims, but to help your listeners understand, not all franchisors are created equal. When you see numbers on the internet, don't believe them. You need someone like me who can help you discern what you're like. Just because a franchise says we require 50,000 cash and a net worth of 250,000, that doesn't mean you need 250,000 or 50,000. Explain to you what that means, right? Just because a franchise says, well, our net worth is $1 million, doesn't mean the business costs $1 million. More than likely, it probably costs 200,000 or 300,000 all in. So this is why I have a business, to help you discern what's out there, to help you understand what you're really investing in, to help bring you to the right opportunities, and then to coach your mindset to understand that when you invest in a franchise, Eric, what you're really buying is a relationship. So it's infinitely more important that you buy people who have a vision for building a company that you buy into than it is that you buy a product or service that you personally love.
Yeah, wonderfully stated there as well, Kim. Thanks for sharing that and demystifying that Chick-fil-A example, because I think that is one that, I really, I didn't know exactly the full story. So I did research into it when I first saw that post and figured out kind of the limiting factor for me was like, oh, you have to be an employee. So it's like it's not totally passive. You also can't own more than one, I don't think. So it's like, really, I don't even know why are they able to call that a franchise? Not crapping on Chick-fil-A here. I love Chick-fil-A. It's delicious. It's a great company, great service. My pleasure. If they're listening, you guys do a wonderful job. But how can that really be called a franchise if you have to work there for like 50% of, like 20 hours a week or more. That was just something that kind of stuck out to me. Is there a particular reason for that, Kim? Are they able to call it a franchise for some other reason, or?
No, it's still a franchise because they're bringing in equity partners. So even if you were to go invest in Massage Envy or Planet Fitness or the Stretch Lab or the Lash Lounge or some home services franchise like the Lawn Doctor, all of these businesses, when we say a franchise, it means that there are two people coming together in a mutually beneficial relationship and have a contractual, like financial obligation to each other. So the franchisee in any scenario is responsible for the success of the business. You said it. You can still flub up. That was your word. I was like, I love the way you said that, right? The business can be so proven, but it's yours to be fail with or to succeed with. So, but the franchisor has the obligation of building the national brand. They have the obligation of continuing to adapt the model to economies, pandemics, changing competition. So they have a more global role in the growth of the business, while you have the local role in your community, you and all the other franchisees. But together, you're coming together to build the brand, and you have this contractual obligation to each other.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense. So it is still very much a franchise, just
Yeah.
different in the fact that they're looking, kind of more for that operator person to be their partner, to be able to help them with that. So that makes more sense. That clears that up for me. I'm wondering now if we might be able to kind of run through like maybe a mock scenario of, I come to you because I'm a different person. I heard you on the Eric Mueller show. I'm like, wow, Kim Daly sounds awesome. I've been wanting to get into different investment, vehicles. I'm thinking about franchising. I come to you. Where do we go from there? What do we look at in terms of my, finances, my life? Maybe age comes into it. What would be the first step, Kim, for someone coming to you and wanting to get involved with franchises?
Great question. Age doesn't come into this like it does in a job. So, we are going to start by, I'm going to start by gathering data. I'm going to get super nosy. I want to know you personally, professionally, and financially, because again, I'm looking at your future life. What is it where do you aspire to go? 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? The business is a vehicle that's going to drive you to these outcomes. And my job is to find the most efficient vehicle for that ride. Okay. But we have to keep it in check with your risk tolerances because we're all different. Some people are really, really conservative and scared. I can help you. Some people are more adventurous and passionate. I can help you because I've been doing this for a really long time. So I know that conservative people invest, but they take a little bit longer. They need more data. So they might not be as suited to an emerging brand as a more adventurous person who needs less data, right? So there's something out there for everybody. There's like 3 to 4 thousand franchises out there. So how do you even know where to begin on your own? So you come to someone like me, my service is free. We gather the data. I have the relationships with the franchisors because again, it's not just about making a connection to, oh, Kim loves to work out. I should only look at fitness franchises. I want to understand the owner that you want to be. What are you bringing to this business that's your core skill? Like for me, I'm an extroverted person. If I had to do like detailed paperwork sitting in an office by myself, I would die. Right? For somebody who's more like an accountant who likes crunching numbers, they would die to be in a role that Kim Daly's in, right? So it's like
Absolutely.
I have to discern, how do we use the talents and skill that you have and put you in the right environment? If you want to be the leader, if you want to be the salesperson, do you want to create jobs? Do you want something like a laundromat that's more, build it and you don't really have a team of people? Right. So there's all different type. Do you want something that you can build a $20 million operation over the course of years? It's not going to be a laundromat. That's going to be a very different kind of organization. So we back end you in, Eric, from the future that you want to have all the way down to the day-to-day life. Do you like a Monday through Friday work week? Because there are franchises that operate Monday through Friday. Are you okay with a 7 day a week, like more retail setting? Do you want to be B2B? Do you want to be B2C? So I have all kinds of questions to pull out from you, everything I need. Now, one of the very first things we're going to do in our in-depth consultation is I'm going to teach you what every franchise business costs and why. So when people hear me and then they're like, well, I don't know if I'm financially qualified. I'm like, don't knock yourself out of the game on your own. Send me an email. I'll send you my getting started questionnaire. I can very quickly assess whether you have enough right now to enter into a conversation. If you're borderline, I'm going to get you right over to my finance friends because I have people that all they do is find money for franchisees. So don't try to do it on your own. All of our services are free. There's like little risk here. And I will not waste your time. So I'm not going to waste my time. If it's not the right time, you're going to leave here knowing exactly what you need to do to have the kind of money that you need to own the business you think is perfect for you. So you know when to call me back. Like, okay, I can be like a farmer who's just working the land. And when it's time to reap the harvest, I'll reap the harvest. But if we get past the money parts, then now we have a conversation where I go do my homework. I come back, I bring you 3 to 5 concepts, but I don't just leave you off right there because you're probably still not going to be able to know how to say yes. My job, really, the way that I see my role, my greatest strength for you is in helping control your mindset, knowing what are the steps, who should you be talking to, what are the questions, how do I finance it, how do I get through this very onerous legal document called the franchise disclosure document that apparently I have to sign, My job is to help you know how to do that. You'll work specifically with the franchisors I've connected you to see among this small group that matches your core skills, is there one that you believe feels like the best partner for you? So the last thing I'll say, Eric, is it's 1 to 2 weeks to figure out the money isn't right now, or the time or timing, 1 to 2 weeks. And it's 1 to 2 months to get you to that confident yes.
That's not a long time, in my opinion. That can go pretty quick if you find out that it's a right fit, or even if you don't, then you know. Because I think that when you were talking about the startup, the net worth conversation, the finance conversation, I think that's probably what a lot of people think. Is they think of like franchising, and they're like, well, gosh, I don't have enough money to do that. I mean, it's like you think of franchising, you think of like, oh, you got to be a multimillionaire probably to be able to do that. And for some businesses, I'm sure that is true. But, like you just shared, there's thousands of them. And it's really about finding the right fit. I'm glad that you said that, because I think it's like you think of anything, whether you're searching for a college, you're dating, anything where you're trying to find your best fit. It's not going to be everybody's best fit. And so coming to you, Kim, we could have that conversation, and there's no pressure as well. Like you're not locked into, oh, you come talk with Kim for 40 minutes or whatever, and you're on a payment plan now, and you owe her money even if you don't do it. So I think it's like you're kind of peeling back the layers and really like demystifying this whole, how do you get started with it? And I'm really appreciative of that. I think there's probably people out there listening that are like, wow, there's a lot about franchising that I don't know, and I want to know more. And so if that is the case, what if someone doesn't have like business experience? Should they be concerned? Do you need, not necessarily traditional business training, but do you even need to be like, an entrepreneurial minded person to be able to benefit from franchising? Is it possible, if you shared that example of someone that's maybe near retirement and they just want another passive income, cash flow while they're living their best life, while they're retired? Maybe they're snowbird and they grew up where I did in Minnesota, and they're like, I'm not going to stay there during my retirement. And they just want a little extra cash without a ton of time commitment. Is that person okay as well?
It's such a good question. So you do not need an MBA. You do not need prior business ownership experience. You do not need to have been a former entrepreneur to be successful in a franchise. You do need goals and dreams, and you do need a personality that wants to be accountable, because this is yours to make or break. It doesn't matter if you're 30 or 60, right? If you have the dream and you're willing to put in the work, you can build a successful franchise. I've seen it happen for the last 26 years. So let me correct one thing that I heard you say. A business will never be passive. Like I bought a piece of land last year, put my money in it, haven't thought about it since, right? Until I got the tax bill, right? But they went up. The assessed value went up. So, okay, but bad news, my taxes went up, right? So that's totally a passive investment. A business will never be that. Business needs a leader. So we can do what we call semi-absentee in some types of businesses. And then other businesses like Chick-fil-A require a full-time owner. And maybe not forever, but if it's your business to birth, and it's your creation, then the joy of this is you get to hire the people that you want to hire for the jobs you have to fill, right? You get to control the energy and the environment and the culture, right? So think about when you've worked for other people and you've loved it or you've hated it, right? And then you want to build something that from your past makes this I love my business. And what you're going to love about it, like we talked about your definition of success, some people, their definition of success in a franchise is having a business where they get to work with their spouse every day and have no employees. They can make as little or as much as they want. They can travel when they want. There are franchises that would afford you that lifestyle with that flexibility. For somebody else, their definition of success is I got 4 kids to put through college. I need a multi-million dollar, financial future ahead of me. I want to make a $500,000 to $1 million net profit. Very different setup, right? I love leading people. I love the idea of creating jobs in my community. That's where my passion for owning a business comes from. For somebody else, they're like, I don't really want to create any jobs. I'm not that good of a person. Right? Guess what? There are franchises for all of those. And this is how I match opportunity to you. So I will say, if you want to be a semi-absentee owner, I have tons of videos on this definition on my YouTube channel because it's not a clear-cut Webster definition. But if I had to give you a Webster definition, what does it mean to be semi-absent from day one? These might be people who need to keep a W-2 job, but they really want to secure their own financial future. So they have one foot in the job world and one foot in the franchise in the beginning, eventually giving the pink slip to the W-2, but we got to build some cash flow in the franchise first. So that semi-absentee definition would probably be, and I'm saying probably, don't take this as gospel, like 10 to 20 hours, I'll say 15 to 20 hours a week in the beginning, and then with a full-time manager. So you're part-time, but you are hiring a full-time manager. So you're trading your time for money by paying somebody else to be there when you're not. But funnel that back to, this is my business and I wanted to own it and control it. And now you're leaving it in the hands of somebody else. So you have to be the leader who's capable of having the confidence to lead this person who's running your business when you're not there, because the business, there's decisions that need to be made. And if you're not there, this person needs to act like you, right? So semi-absent by definition is definition, but in practicality, right? A lot of times investors are like, wow, I ended up being there a lot more than I thought. Yeah, because it's your business and you care, right?
Yeah,
Or, hey,
exactly.
I came in, I planned to be 20, but I was able to be 15 and then to 10 within 90 days. Maybe you're an amazing leader of people. You got it down and off you went. Everybody experiences that definition a little bit different, just like the definition of success, Eric.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm glad you pointed that out, Kim, the passive piece, because really it does. I mean, and I have I have a business with my buddy from back in pharmacy school. And, we sometimes talk about it being, kind of feeling passive, but it's certainly in no way, shape, or form like a totally passive thing. There's so much effort and active participation that goes into it every single day, basically. And so I think that's important for people out there listening if they want to get into, franchising as a business. It's going to be, like Kim had shared, that trade-off of time for money. That really kind of has stuck in my mind since the beginning of this conversation, Kim. Really, that it's that balancing act. You're trading one for the other, and so you don't have a sell off and make $80 million after you've built up 10 gyms, just from not doing a ton of hard work along the way. So like, there's no shortcut. I think that's important. I try to remind myself of that as much as possible. My dad will honestly be laughing his head off listening to this because he tells me this all the time. And I believe it. It's easy to get into the habit of thinking, when are you going to see, okay, when is this going to pay off? It's going to pay off eventually, but when is that hard work going to pay off? What would you say, the last thing I'll ask you, what would you say with franchising? What is the biggest success story that you've seen with one of your clients? And, without naming names, or if you want to name a company or not, whatever you'd like to share, what is the most proud success story that you've had so far, as the Daly coach?
Okay, so it's probably not gonna be like the one that you think I'd pick, like, oh, the guy who's like living her dreams, bought the yacht. I mean, I have those stories, but this is a real true success story. And I have this recorded on my YouTube channel as well. So I met a guy, this was years ago, who I literally thought to myself, I do not want to help this man buy a business. He is going to fail, and I do not want this on my conscience. So I called one franchisor and I was like, hey, I'm going to send you a lead and I need you to help challenge him and to help him figure out he should not do this. So did that. Guy went through the process. The franchisor calls me back. He's like, Kim, I can't figure out a reason not to sell this guy a franchise, right? Like he meets every challenge I give to him. I'm like, really? Okay. I mean, who am I? It's not my job to play God with people's lives. It was just a feeling I had. So that guy today, he owns a single territory of a franchise in Maine, and it's not like it's a niche business. He does over $200,000 a month in Maine in a single territory in a company where, just to put it in perspective, the average franchisee is doing about $50,000 a month in revenue. So there's 900 franchisees. He's in the top 25, not 25%, the top 25 performers out of 900 people. And this was the guy that when I first met him, I thought, dear Lord, please do not let him say yes. So when people say to me, am I going to be successful? I say, I don't know. Are you? Because how you show up for your moment after you sign that franchise agreement, that's what matters. It doesn't matter. You asked, do I need a special skill or degree? No. What you brought to your moment matters way less than what you bring after you commit to it. So, and what I mean by that is, look, business ownership is hard. And then it gets easy. And then it gets hard. And then it gets easy. Like anything else in life, it is a continual growth journey. And the way that you embrace that growth journey is the determining factor of how many times you get to the next mountaintop. But a lot of times people get in the valley and they quit. I'm not judging, right? We've all been in the valley. It's easy to quit in the valley. But if you don't push through the grind, the daily grind of, working it out and growing as a person and remembering that as a business owner, we're here to serve people, not to get. So when people come to me and they're like, I'm not making enough money, as if they were owed something. I'm like, well, your math problem is wrong in your head. If you're not getting enough, then you're not giving enough. So get back in your head to showing up to serve people, whether that's your employees or your customers or both. And when you start waking up to serve people, you will attract so much goodness to you because you'll make more money than you ever dreamed of making when you were thinking from your limited mindset of how much can I earn? It's not about earning. It's about receiving once you create the value. So, I mean, getting back to the metaphysical part of this whole thing, but hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it really just at the core of, what is an entrepreneur? What is their job? It's to serve people, it's to solve a problem, it's to provide value. And so that's why these people that have founded immensely successful companies, that's why they have crazy monetary net worths. And that may or may not have been part of the goal going through that, but that is the trade-off. If you create a lot of value, you're going to get a lot back. So yeah, Kim, I think, gosh, it's been a fun conversation. I've really had a great time with this. The founder of the Daly Coach and the host of Kim Daly TV on YouTube. We'll tag those in the show notes for sure. But Kim, if someone wants to reach out to you and connect personally, maybe they do want to start that franchise exploration with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Go right to my website, thedalycoach.com. And that's the Daly, thedalycoach.com. You'll find all the resources you need there. There's an online course you can take if you want to do that before we connect. Testimonials, like thousands of testimonials, and just a direct contact form that you can fill out will come right to my desk and I'll reach right out to you right away.
Perfect. Well, everybody go contact Kim, reach out to her, share with her your thoughts on this episode. And yeah, Kim Daly, you're one of America's top franchise consultants. Thanks so much for making the time to be on the show today. We'll look forward to following your journey and keeping up with you soon. And again, thanks so much.
What a blessing you are. Thank you, Eric.